All right, so today we're going to be talking about web application firewalls and just understanding them from a foundational point. So, what is a web application firewall? So when we think about it, let's think about it in terms of monitoring traffic that goes through it, making sure that it's safe. So it's really protecting applications from like common exploits like SQL injection or cross-site scripting. So it's going to go through and it's going to make sure, okay, are you good? Are you bad? Are you good? And if it's bad, it's going to get rid of it. It's not going to allow it to go through to the application. Just some little housekeeping, it operates at the application layer, so layer 7 of the OSI model. So why use it? Well, it mitigates the OWASP top 10 threats, like access control and, um, a lot of those top 10 threats. It protects sensitive data and user privacy. So, privacy is very important to people, like their credit card numbers. So, and it protects that. So it's very useful in terms of protection, reducing downtimes from malicious traffic. You don't want your site to be down. When you have a SQL injection attack or some sort of a DDoS attack, you want to make sure that your site stays up and running, and a WAF will help you do that. It enhances compliance, PCI DSS, just like we were talking about with credit cards. Yeah, it covers it. How a WAF works. So it's intercepting incoming traffic before it reaches the web server. So it's going to be right in front of the web server and make sure, hey, you're not going to get by unless you're good. So it uses rule sets and heuristics to identify malicious requests. So you as the security architect or security engineer can make sure that your web application firewall has heuristics and rule sets that are the most effective at defending your application or your web server. So it either blocks, allows, or just logs the traffic based on the configuration. So it's up to you as the engineer of what you want to do. So types of attacks blocked, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, these are the big ones, right? We're thinking about web application security and we're looking at web application attacks. I mean, this is what you're talking about. And it helps block all of these. All right. Now it is dependent on if you do it right and you make sure as a security engineer that you configure it correctly. Now, deployment models, there's network-based, host-based, cloud-based, right? Think about the AWS WAF that you can do to protect your cloud resources, your EC2 instances, or your database instances. Anything that has a connectivity to it, you want to have a WAF that's configured with it to monitor that traffic and also to do the allow or block to different traffic that's going to be interfacing with it. WAF versus traditional firewalls. Let's try to parse out what's the difference. Traditional firewalls filter based on ports and protocols and more static information. WAFs filter based on more the HTTP content, cookies, sessions. These things can be dynamic, and so you want your web application firewall to have rules set that can make sure to be resilient to these changes, and they provide more granularity. So they kind of goes along the side with the dynamic nature of HTTP content and cookies and sessions and sort of the web application, your general, um, different tooling and dynamic nature of the web. So these are popular WAF solutions. So like the AWS WAF, which is something that you set up. I mean, AWS is one of the largest cloud providers, and when you want an AWS solution, like an EC2 instance, having a WAF is a pretty necessary thing if you want to have network traffic coming in and being able to monitor that. There are limitations to it that must be considered. It can't protect against zero-day attacks without updated rules. So, and it can introduce latency. So that's where, as a security engineer, you have to weigh the pros and the cons and making sure that you have enough security, but not where it wears down your application too much, where now you don't have any traffic because no one wants to visit the site. It does require tuning to avoid false positives. So there is a case where it can be too much and it can make sort of your client experience not the greatest, and that needs to be weighed by your security engineer. So like with the AWS WAF, it's integrated with CloudFront or the application load balancer. It supports custom rules and managed rule groups. So, and we can go over this in a later video, real-time metrics with CloudWatch. So you have a lot of coverage with the AWS WAF. It's a really good tool to protect your cloud resources. So it's scalable and pay as you go. So it's, again, this is all going back to the cloud and how it's very scalable and it can really go with you as you get more resources or you require more resources. So overall, using a WAF as part of a defense in depth strategy is a pretty important thing to do, and regular update those rule sets to make sure that you're having the best balance of security, but also a customer experience that isn't degraded by um, the security. So, and that is it. Thank you.